Hi guys, how are you doing? How is everyone around? I hope you are keeping safe. Please continue to keep safe. I will continue today with our video section. We are moving on to the three video. The last video section was for week 2, where we treated the topic conditional sentences. Before we move on to the three video today, I'd like to say a brief thing about our last topic, that's conditional sentences. Now, we said in the last topic that conditional sentence is a sentence that simply shows that there will be a cause before you can have an effect. It shows that there's a cause for a particular event to happen, for a particular outcome to happen. So it gives condition for that outcome to happen. And you see words like if, whenever, unless, when, introducing a group of words, it shows that a condition is being given before the outcome, before a proposed outcome. If something like this happens, then this is what will be the result. That is conditional sentences. So please and please can take time to run through your notes again to familiarize yourself more about conditional sentences and their examples. All right, so today we are proceeding to three video, and our topic is still on grammar. We are looking at active forms and passive forms. Active and passive forms in sentences. Active and passive forms of verbs in sentences. Active and passive forms of verbs in sentences. All right, so before we proceed, I'd like to show the lesson objectives, what we're supposed to learn for this class. Like I said, the topic is verb forms and the subtopic is active and passive forms. At the end of the lesson, students should be able to explain active and passive form. Now, I'll give you definitions of active and active form and then passive form. So you should be able to learn this definition and you should be able to recite it after the class. Then move on to examples of active and passive forms. I'm going to give you examples of active and passive forms in sentences. Number 3, lesson objective. Change active sentence to passive and vice versa. Vice versa means the other way around. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to change active sentence to passive sentence and at the same time change passive sentence to active sentence. Number 4, objective. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to illustrate the use of tenses in active and passive voice. The use of tenses in active and passive voice. If you can recall that what we've been doing since the beginning of this term has to do with verbs, tenses, forms of verbs, and things like that. So they are all interwoven. So no topic is to be taken lightly. We take each topic seriously because they are all related, they are all interwoven. Now we'll talk about active form and passive voice. We are talking about it in relation to verb, and to the subject and object in a sentence. The verb is important in active and passive form of sentences. The subject's position is important and the object position is also important. Then the tenses used in the sentences to show the time reference is also important. Earlier in our week 2 class, we've talked about revision of tenses. I reminded you about all the types of tenses that we have in English language and all their sub aspects. So please take time to also revisit that note so that you can familiarize yourself more about tenses. All right, so moving into today's class in detail, we'll start with the definition as we usually do. So we'll start with the definition, and we're taking the definition of active form first. Active form. Active form, can also call it active voice. Active form or active voice. Now, in active sentences, what usually happens? Now, in your sentence, you have your subject position and you have your object position. These two positions is the main focus of active and passive forms. They are the main focus of your active and your passive forms in sentences. Now let's look at it. In active sentence, the thing that is doing the action is the subject of the sentence. And the thing receiving the action is the object of the sentence. Listen to me carefully. In active sentence, the thing doing the action, the doer of the action now, is the subject of the sentence. While the thing receiving the action, that is the receiver of the action, is the object of the sentence. Now, when the person or thing doing the action, that's the doer of the action, is in the subject position, and the receiver of that action, the person or thing receiving the action, is in the object position, and then we have the action in between them, we have our active form of sentence. We have our active form of sentence. And the active form is used when the subject of the sentence represents the doer of the action, as indicated by the verb. I said, if the doer of the action, as the doer of the action in that sentence, that is the subject. If the person or thing is in the subject position and the receiver of that action is in the object position, then we have active form in sentence. We have an active sentence. All right, let's move on to passive form. Now, passive form is just like when you interchange the two positions, the subject position and the object position. When you bring the the thing in the object position to the subject position, and you take the thing or person in the subject position, you take it to the object position. Now you've interchanged it. That is passive form in sentence. Now, in passive sentences, the thing receiving the action, we are now making that thing that is receiving the action, we are making it the subject of the sentence. And the thing doing the action, that is the doer, now we are now taking it to the object position. Now, if you get your active form carefully, that the subject, that's the doer of the action, is in the subject position, the receiver of the action is in the object position. Just know that in your passive form, you are interchanging the two positions. I hope you are together. So the subject in the passive form, the subject in the position of the receiver, the subject is in the position of the receiver of the action in passive form. So the two positions, the subject position and the object position, the doer position and the receiver's position, are interchanged in passive voice. We are going to illustrate it with examples so it will be more clear to you. All right, so let's look at examples of active forms in sentences. Examples of active forms in sentences. Number one, the professor teaches the students. The professor teaches the students. And let's look at all the words in this sentence. The professor, that is the doer of the sentence, is the one that is doing the action. Now, what is the action in this sentence? The action is teaching. He teaches. He or she teaches. That is the action. Now, who is doing this action? That is the professor. The professor is doing the action in this sentence. Now, who is receiving this action? That is the students. The professor teaches the students. Now, the professor, who is the subject of the sentence, is doing the action, while the verb, that's teaches, while the object, the receiver of the action, is the students. So, in active form, this is a very good example of active forms in sentence. The subject, that's the doer of the action, is in the subject position. The object, that is the receiver of the action, is in the object position, that is the students. The professor is the subject, the students is the object. They are both in their different places. Now let's move on to example 2. Example 2, we have John washes the dishes. John washes the dishes. And number one thing is that what is the action in this sentence? It is washes. That's the verb. The action that is carried out in this sentence is washes. That's verb. Now let's look at it. Who is the doer of this sentence? Who is the doer of this action rather? The doer is John. And John, the doer of the action, is in the subject position. The dishes is the receiver of the action that John is doing, that action of washing that John is doing. The receiver of that action is the dishes. Now the dishes is in the object position, which is the position of the receiver of the action. I'll put that together. All right, so the third example is the boy kicked the ball. The boy kicked the ball. Now the boy is the subject. The boy is also the doer of the action. He's the doer of the action, so is in the subject position. He's the one doing the action. Now, what is the action? The action is kicked. What is the receiver of this action? What is the receiver of the action? The action that the boy is doing, what is receiving it? What is receiving it here is the ball. So the ball is the object and is in the position of the receiver. Let's run through the examples again. The professor teaches the students. The professor is the subject, that's the doer of the action. Teaches is the verb. The subject is the object receiving the action. It is also in the object position. John washes the dishes. John is the subject of the action. John is the one performing the action, is the doer of the action. So he is in the subject position. Washes is the verb. The dishes is the receiver of the action. So the dishes is in the object position. That's the position of the receiver of the action. The last example, the boy kicked the ball. The boy is in the subject position. He is the doer of the action kicked. And the ball is in the receiver's position. It is the one receiving the action of kicked. And it is the object of the sentence. All right, so let's move on to examples of passive sentences. Passive form of sentences. All right, number one example, if try to recall that I said you interchange these positions. All right, so now let's look at the first example. The students are taught by the professor. The students are taught by the professor. Now, the student here is the receiver of the action. The student is the receiver of the action, but now the position has been changed to the position of the subject in this sentence. So we've interchanged this. Now, previously it used to be the professor teaches the students. Now we've changed the tenses and we've also changed the position of both the subject and the receiver of the action. Now the receiver of the action is now in the subject position, that's the students, while the doer of the action is now in this object position, that's professor. So it's quite simple. Just ensure that you take note of your examples and notice how the positions are being changed. Number two example, the dishes are washed by John. The dishes now has been changed to the position of the subject. The dishes, which is the receiver of the action, has been taken to the place of subject in this sentence, while John, the doer of the action, has taken the object position. The ball was kicked by the boy. The ball was kicked by the boy. The boy, who is the doer of the action, has relocated to the position of the object, while the ball, who is the receiver of the action, has taken the position of the subject in the sentence. So take note of this exchange so that you know model them up. Now, this brings us to the use of tenses. If you look at this sentence, you will see that their tenses have been changed in the process of interchanging. Where we used to have present tense in our active form, we now have past in the passive form. So this takes us to the next point of discussion, that's the use of tenses in active and passive forms. The use of tenses in active and passive forms. Now, with two topics, we talked about revision of tenses. So I won't be going into details again in explaining the types of tenses and their examples and their sub-aspects and all of that. So please consult your with two notes and video to get a clearer and deeper understanding of revision of tenses. But today we are just going to be highlighting the use of active and passive forms in tenses. Use of tenses in active and passive forms. Now let's look at the simple present tense. The simple present tense. Let's look at this example. Once a week, Timmy cleans the house. Once a week, Timmy cleans the house. Now the simple present tense verb here is cleans. Once a week, Timmy cleans the house. Now that's the active form of the sentence. If we now want to change it to the passive form, the tense will also change. Now the sentence will turn out to be once a week, the house. We've taken the house, which is the receiver of the object. We've taken it to the subject position. The house is cleaned by Timmy, to show that it is still simple present tense, but we've changed that tense because we are changing it to the passive form. Let's take it again. Timmy cleans the house. When we're changing it to passive form, the house is cleaned by Timmy. So you take note that we are changing the tense, and at the same time we are adding preposition by to the passive form. We want to change our active to passive form. We change the tense and we also add preposition by. Now the second tense here is present continuous. Present continuous. Anna is writing the letter. Anna is writing the letter. Anna is the subject. The letter is the object. When we want to invert the positions, we change the tense and we also add preposition by. The letter is being written by Anna. Now let's look at present continuous. Is and being, continuous being. The letter is being written by Anna. Then the third tense is present perfect. Present perfect. Many tourists have visited that mountain. Many tourists have visited that mountain. Now, many tourists is the subject. Visited is the action, and mountain is the object. We want to invert it in our passive form to turn out to be that mountain has been visited by many tourists. That mountain has been visited by many tourists. Still on the present form, we have the present perfect continuous. Present perfect continuous. Recently, James has been doing the work. James has been doing the work. James is the subject of the sentence. The work is the object of the sentence. When we want to interchange it in the passive form, the positions will change, and we also introduce preposition by, and at the same time the tense will change. I hope we are following. So the passive form of this sentence will be, the work has been done by James. The work has been done by James. That is that about the simple present form and its sub aspects. All right, let's move on to the past. The past form and its sub aspects. The simple past form. Faith repaired the car. That's in the past tense. Faith repaired the car. Now, faith is the subject of the sentence. The car is the object of the sentence. So, faith is the doer. She's in the subject position. The car is the receiver, and it is in the object position. So, faith repaired the car. That's active form of the sentence. And when we're changing it to passive form, we have the car was repaired by faith. The car was repaired by faith. Like I said earlier, we've changed the positions, we've changed the tense, and at the same time we've added preposition by. Now let's look at the second one in the past form. That's past continuous. Past continuous. The gate man was locking the gates when the thief jumped into the house. The gate man was locking the gate when the thief jumped into the house. When we are changing this to passive form, we will have a sentence like, the thief jumped into the house when the gate was being locked. That is past continuous. Being, B-E-I-N-G, to show the continuous form of being locked by the gate man. The past perfect form, we also have, Johnson had repaired many cars before he received his mechanic's license. Johnson had repaired many cars before he received his mechanic's license. That's the active form of the sentence. When we're changing this to passive form, we have sentence like, many cars had been repaired by Johnson before he received his mechanic's license. Take note of the tense, take note of the introduction of preposition by, and also the inversion of the subject and object positions. The last sub-aspect in the past form is past perfect continuous. Past perfect continuous. Chef Margaret had been preparing the restaurant's menu for 2 years before he moved to France. Chef Margaret had been preparing the restaurant's menu for 2 years before he moved to France. Now, Chef Margaret is the subject, that to show the active form of the sentence. We are changing it to the passive forms. The positions are interchanged. That is the position of the subject and object. They are interchanged. The tense will also change, and then we'll introduce the preposition by. Then we have a sentence like, the restaurant's menu had been prepared by Chef Margaret for 2 years before she moved to France. Had been prepared. That is the verb to show the past perfect continuous. Had been prepared. To show the past perfect continuous in passive sentence. Had been prepared by Chef Margaret for 2 years before she moved to France. Now we look at the third aspect. That is our future tense. Future tense. Also in future tense, when we have sentence in the active form, we have sentence like, Mabel will finish the shift by 5 p.m. That's a simple future tense. Mabel will finish the shift by 5 p.m. Mabel is the subject. She's the doer of the action. The shift is the object, the receiver of the action. And let's look at it. It says, the shift will be finished by 5 p.m. The shift will be finished by 5 p.m. So the position has been inverted, and finish has changed to finished. So please take note of the sentence, of the tenses. We also have the future perfect form. They will have completed the project before the deadline. They will have completed the project before the deadline. That's the active form. Now, when we change it to the passive form, we have the project will have been completed before the deadline. The project will have been completed before the deadline. All right, then we have the last form, which is form of tense, which is used to. Janet used to pay the bills. Janet is the subject, she's the doer of the action. The bills is the object, which is the receiver of the action. Janet used to pay the bills. The bills used to be paid by Janet. The bills used to be paid by Janet. This is the passive form of the same sentence. That's the passive form of the same sentence. All right, so please, we've talked about the definition of the active form, the definition of the passive form, and we've illustrated it with examples. And at the same time, we've looked at the use of tenses in active and passive form of sentences. The use of tenses in active and passive forms of tenses. So please take your time to run through the notes, note the intricacies, note the key points, at the same time note all the relevant examples. Note all the examples and take your time to also come up with your own sentences to illustrate all these examples, to illustrate all these forms of voice, the active form and the passive voice, and the different tenses that we can use when we are changing the passive and the active voice. When we are changing one sentence to the other, when we are changing one form to the other. In active voice, the subject, that's the doer of the action, is in the subject position. And your object, that is the receiver of the action, is in the object position. In passive voice, the receiver of the action comes to the subject position while the doer of the action goes to the object position. When we are interchanging these positions, our tense will change and we'll introduce preposition by. All right, so in your lesson notes that has already been uploaded online, you will see assignments after the lesson. So when you copy your notes, take time to study it, listen to the video over and over again, get all the explanations, and do your assignment. So we'll see again soon in our next video class. Take care of yourself, continue to stay safe, and my regards to everyone at home. Bye.